disagree.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
5 minutes.
Being a fellow Mississippian, I agree. It's kind of chilly in here. Mr. Secretary McAleenan, thank you for your service. As I understand your story, you were watching the towers fall at 9/11 and ran to the sound of the guns. So I appreciate that. And for those of us who were in service at the time those towers fell, we look at that degree of patriotism with great admiration. Thank you. To all the witnesses here today, thanks for your service to our great country. I really appreciate your being here today and for your candor. My question is really to all of you, or whomever you think is best to answer it. I'd still like to kind of dig into this cooperation between ISIS and AQ, and what you think their capacities are if they combine, and how that impacts the homeland.
I'll start. There are places around the globe where ISIS and AQ definitely cooperate. West Africa, I think, being a classic case where JNIM, an AQ affiliate, and ISIS West Africa certainly cooperate on the ground. I think the general view is that we're very unlikely to see a strategic alliance between the two. There are issues associated. Al-Qaeda thought the caliphate itself was a mistake. The very issue of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi being a caliph graded at AQ, to be sure.
I'm sure.
My guess is that we're going to continue to see, much like we do today, ISIS and AQ battle in places, Yemen, in East Africa. Whereas in the homeland, and Director Wright can talk to this, we do see a bit of an idiosyncratic adoption of sometimes individuals will cite ISIS, sometimes they'll cite AQ ideology. We've certainly seen that in Europe. But in general, I don't think we're going to see a strategic alliance.
Okay. Switching gears a little bit to cyber, what are your thoughts on blockchain and its impact on cybersecurity? And is there an increased vulnerability with blockchain, or is it decreased? Is that protective in any way, I guess?
Yeah, I think it has potential to decrease vulnerability by creating a distributed ledger where you can verify transactions across multiple entities. I think there's some really interesting applications being explored, supply chain being one of the critical ones. And I'm speaking of the traditional cargo supply chain from my Customs and Border Protection background, being able to verify that shipment from stuffing in a manufacturer's facility all the way to unloading at a Walmart in the U.S. That's a very promising type of capability. So I think ultimately blockchain will be a help as it's applied in various sectors.
How well do you think government as a whole is accepting that? I mean, I agree with you. How are we moving toward blockchain across the infrastructure?
So I think the private sector is going to drive it, as it usually does, in adoption of new technology. What we're trying to do at DHS and is play a productive role where we can partner in the financial sector, for instance, in movement of cargo, in supply chains, in cybersecurity applications as well, to basically provide a platform and support standard setting for blockchain applications in different areas. I think there's a lot of work to be done, and frankly, that's a dialogue that needs to happen with Congress as well.
Agreed. Again, changing the subject, this is for Undersecretary Gloway, and I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Gloway. Can you elaborate a little bit on the National Vetting Center, where we are, the memorandum that was recently issued, and kind of give us an update on that?
Sure. And myself and the Secretary for many years in our prior capacity have been working on this. And I'm happy to say the National Vetting Center is right on track of where we want to be. And that is really taking U.S. intelligence community data, law enforcement data, U.S. Customs and Border Protection data, and other data sources to find nefarious actors, criminal entities. We're expanding it to looking at transnational organized crime, foreign intelligence operatives, and it's really a model that the Secretary led in his prior capacities in developing the business model to find bad things that are trying to come into the United States, and this will be expanded to cargo, and it really is a model that is really important for the Department of Homeland Security. We're the last line of defense before bad things come in the country, and I defer to the Secretary because he was really the architect behind this for many years, and he saw it fruition before he left.
I think the Undersecretary summarized it very well. This is a collaboration with the intelligence community and interagency partners that is expanded. that has been done from the beginning with inclusion of privacy from across the interagency to make sure we're doing this right with every additional data set, with every comparison, that we have the right safeguards in place, and it's already identifying individuals that could pose a threat to the U.S. that we wouldn't have seen before this capability was brought online. So I think it is absolutely headed in the right direction, building off the National Targeting Center framework.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for that work. Thank you both.